Alright, here we go. Welcome back to Lenz Comic Corner, Classic Known Classics. This is episode number 3097 and Doubleshot 2991. Two books that feature two very well, one is a very popular female character who still runs currently got an ongoing series. The other one does not. But they both were very active in the 80s. The writer of the first book was very active in the 80s. And the other book, was there for the time. Alright, first one we have is Jean Grey, Flames of Fear. This collects the second volume for Jean Grey, which was written by the legendary Louise Simonson, the wife of the legendary Walt Simonson. She wrote this. A lot of this book is simply a retelling of Jean Grey's history throughout the years, and it's told really well. Unlike the previous volume focused on the teenage Jean Grey, which she's seen very briefly at the start of this. By the way, we have Bernard Che on the artwork here with Amy Reeder on the cover art. So a lot of this book is simply basically recapping her history and show up a little bit what happened in the end of Extermination when the original five returned back to the past of what exactly happened just before they reunited with President Xavier. And a lot of this book is simply them fighting like various different foes throughout the years, like Magneto with the First Class stuff. Louise Simons does an excellent job with this book. The book is amazing. The only thing kind of odd about this book was that they altered the X Factor uniforms. When they got to X Factor, where they look like this now for some reason. They have like a flat screen TV, which I'm like, wait, they didn't have that in the 80s. Yeah, it's probably a bit richer continuity here. So, then you have a Sentinel show up here. Yeah, and then we have a little bit of the real history thrown in here too. It's like basically her going back to the past really did alter history a little bit. At one point in the book, get this, they alter a pivotal point in X-Men history in this book, where instead of Jean Grey being host of Phoenix Force, it was Wolverine for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, it's like, I wouldn't say this ruins Jean Grey per se, no. Yeah, for and of course, eventually that Scott is eventually possessed at one point, but the Phoenix Force, which did not happen in the timeline, nope. The stuff with Madeline Pryor, which I think is a little bit when it comes to Inferno. Also, for some reason, the cover, you have Jean Grey wearing her old Marvel Girl costume. When it's Inferno happened here, which, by the way, it happened in the late 80s. Now, here's the real X-Factor uniforms. It's like stuff is interesting, of course. For some reason, Bernard Che draws Madeline Pryor to be smoking hot. Like, oh my gosh, like, damn. Scott, you left this beautiful woman for another beautiful woman? Damn. You promised me my son. Yeah, no Havoc here for some reason in the past. We have her going crazy, and then we have Ship, which was basically the base operation for X Factor at one point. Then we have basically the whole thing happened with the whole thing, the virus that's in the Camp Future, flooding of Manhattan. We see various versions of history. This book was a lot of fun to read. It's not terrible, but it's fantastic. I give the book roughly a 9 out of 10. The book was damn good. Next up, basically, we have is Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld. Yes, this was a 80s themed comic book originally. This is Showcase Presents Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld. Basically, this book, a lot of the issues here are written by Dan Mushkin and art by Gary Cullen. At one point, you have Dan Jurgens doing his artwork here. Yes. Basically, this book contains her previous stories from League of Superheroes, number 298. Her entire 12-issue first volume, which was released as a limited series. Yes. Excuse me. And of course, they also included the 8 of the book. DC Comics since 63, which I'm going to skip that one. And also include the first 11 out of 16 issues for Amethyst Volume 1. Volume 2, excuse me. You read this book like, wait, did the second volume only have 11 issues? No, it had 16 plus the special. Yeah, I do not know why DC decided not to do another volume for this one. Yeah, they just did one and that was it. If you're curious, this book came out back in 2012. This is roughly about 3 years prior to the end of the Showcase line. And they released one book for this. Let me do some here. Oh, yuck. Basically, the whole thing with Amethyst, it's like escape fiction for girls, but it's done in a really good way. I like this book. I like Amethyst as a character. Her real name is Amy Watson, where she was basically, like, she's from Gemworld originally, but she's living in the real world. It's basically kind of like an isekai, kind of, except Gemworld's like another dimension you can actually go to it. At one point in the current continuity, Young Justice may visit the place. They did. And this book basically, by the way, the first volume was published, according to publication date, from May of 1983, and the final issue of the first volume was released in April of 1984. The very next first issue of the very next volume was released in January of 1985. Issue 11 was released in November 1985. So a lot of the first volume is her trying to save Gemworld from Dark Opal. She finds out about her roots. And by the way, when the series started, she was 13 and she could transfer to a 16-year-old. And she follows the prince, who briefly tries to get married. Also, the book has a lot of fantasy elements that you see associated with Conan the Barbarian. So it's like the writers of this book took a lot of inspiration from Conan, based on the fans, and probably also a little bit of Warlord. Yes, I would say definitely Warlord, because I think he would still be published this period of time. So they get inspiration from that. This definitely would be a book definitely for women to read, because they would really enjoy this. Better than some of the crap they publish nowadays when it comes to basically female characters. Yes, some, but not all of them. Don't worry. I'm not criticizing all books that feature female characters. Some basically bad. Look at You, America. The Miss America comic published in 2017, 2018. A terrible comic. The book was terrible. You know, the book where, like, if you read the original run of the book, for some strange reason, Marvel had the recap habit where, Miss America is a lesbian. She's a daughter of 2 lesbian moms. She's got a girlfriend. And they remind you about this for 11 straight issues. Batwoman, people know she's a lesbian. They're not reminded. Not at all. There's no reason to be reminded. The writers of Batwoman knew that. The writer who wrote the Miss America comic basically should have known that. You don't need to remind people. People already know. People are not stupid. But in the case of this, Dark Opal does die by the final issue of the book. The DC Comics Presents book is most of us paying a visit to Gemworld for an issue, which also features Dark Opal. He gets defeated by the final issue, and all the book is fighting his forces, building up to, at one point in the book, accidentally, Amethyst brings creatures from her world to her hometown. And one of them basically is like a mind of a child, but lucky enough, her adoptive mother, actually is her aunt, I think it was, where they had her calm down, and also their point basically is like, don't harm her, she's basically very important to her. Then by the end of the book, basically the story was over, and then we had an adventure, which of course continued on for quite a while. It's a lot of fun. It's a good serialized story. I do appreciate Dan Pooch can basically do an excellent job with this book. Here's a weird fun fact with this book. Did you know that my local library actually had this system originally? Well, I could easily just check it out just by looking up. Yes, that was until they sold it. Yes, they sold this book. Well, not this particular book, but they sold a copy of this book. And luckily, but sheer coincidence, basically, there's a website my Lambert uses, and hey, here's his book. Yeah. This book is surprisingly really good, and yes, my next comic corner, I will actually a future comic review the rest of this volume, plus another book. But those of you look at this like, oh, second volume 11 issues. No. You look it up, it's completely untrue. It has 16 issues, not 11. This book may say 11, but that was not the last issue. You want to know why? Because the last thing you see in this book is a to be continued, which means there are more issues, and they weren't published. And I like the first volume, but I give the book a 9.5. I like the first one, which was a limited series. Second volume was actually ongoing. Yes, it was an ongoing that didn't last very long. My only guess is the reason why they did second volume, because the first one probably sold really well. That's probably the reason for it. And good on DC just do a limited series. Don't need to do it ongoing. Me. Yeah. And I think it was weird. Of all books debuting, you put it as a preview in a Legion of Superheroes. Well, not the first time they did this. They also did with New Teen Titans when it was a preview in DC Comics Presents. For a reason. But yeah, really good book. And of course the character's still around. She would have another volume after this. She would have one miniseries afterwards. I'll talk about the future comic over that one. And then here's a really weird. She would have another book published until 2012. Because the third volume was released in 1987, was a 4-issue miniseries. And then we had the Sword of Swords book. I'll be discussing that soon. And her fourth volume, which was another miniseries that was published under the Wonder Comics imprint, featuring Justice. She also featured Justice League Dark. Yeah. Did you know also at one point that she fought the Spectre and won? When the Spectre tried to destroy Gemworld during Infinite Crisis. Read the book. Yeah. She basically fought it and won. That's how powerful she is. And my only thing against her is that I like about her, she doesn't interact with DC Universe very much. This will be set into DC Universe. It's like, who was the first character she meets outside of her comic? Superman. And that was it. And she didn't do anything for some time after that. And don't worry, we'll be discussing more books in the future about that. So, yeah. That's been pretty much a particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. And next video is I led my A-rank party to join my former students and to explore dungeon depths. And then do another comic corner, and then it's back to Sentai. Okay, thanks, bye.